Breaking news. Your dream life isn't going to happen because you made a vision board. You're going to need goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. This podcast is about getting clarity on what you want, having the grit to do the actual work, and most importantly, constantly training your brain to be your bitch. Ready to be inspired? Here is your host, best-selling author, Una Duncan.
Confession. I probably spent about $1 million in courses, coaching, and consultants. Okay, maybe not a million. I mean, the real confession is that I have a tendency to exaggerate, and I'm a sloppy accountant. But what I'm trying to say is that in my adult life, post-formal university education, I've spent a significant portion of my income every year on continuing education and personal development. On everything from money mindset and finances to personal stylists and interior designers to online marketing, online community building, intuition and spirituality, sleep and insomnia coaching, strength training and bodybuilding, how to better coach habits and nutrition, photography and videography, copywriting, public speaking, storytelling, all of it. And this is just in my life as a fitness entrepreneur. When I was an actor, I spent all of my money that I earned waitressing on courses on the arts of clown, accents, Shakespeare, activating my diaphragm, being comfortable on camera, mask work, and accessing authentic emotion from my right knee or whatever the fuck. Anyway, here's what I've learned. When it comes to being really successful with any of those endeavors, there is one lesson that keeps coming up. And I'm going to tell you about that one lesson, but I'm not going to claim that this podcast episode is going to save you from spending $1 million on courses. Like, I took the courses, so you don't have to, because I actually think you should go and buy all the courses and follow your curiosity. I honestly think that is some of the best money you could spend. You're curious about these things for a reason. That curiosity is a clue, and you should follow it. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs. Like, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I probably have, but a lot of times people get stuck because they say, oh, fuck me. I'm fucking 52 years old and I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Or they say, no, I do know what I want to be. I want to be a talk show host or whatever, but I have no idea how to make that happen. And this lack of clarity of vision, it can be so paralyzing because, you know, when we talk about goals, the very first step is always get really clear on exactly what you want. And when people don't feel that clarity, they sometimes feel so demotivated and directionless. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Instead of trying to get a clear vision of exactly what you want and how it's going to happen, just look for the next breadcrumb. Or as I sometimes call it, play warmer, colder. If you don't know what to do to be a talk show host, but you know that you really want it, then you ask yourself, okay, does it feel warmer to start my own YouTube channel? Or does it feel warmer to take a college course on media studies? And either of those things might lead you to being a talk show host, or if you keep following those breadcrumbs, if you keep sensing into what feels a little warmer and moving towards that, the outcome might actually be even better than you ever imagined. So in me following all my curiosities and taking these courses and going deep, really deep on some of these paths, I keep getting to the same one ultimate lesson. And I'm sharing it with you because it might be the lesson that you need to learn right now in whatever goal you are pursuing. Either that, or it will just be an expose of the lesson that Una needs to learn most. Maybe a bit of both. Let's do it. So the first thing to keep in mind whenever you're driving towards a goal is to understand yourself and how you learn and how you pursue things and what fuels you to take action and where you sometimes get stuck. In my fitness program, the Masters of Fitness Awesomeness, I developed 2 broad archetypes. I noticed that there are tigers and there are turtles. So let me tell you a little bit about my turtles. The turtles tend to, well, first of all, they just like to physically move a little slower. They do not love quick transitions during the workouts, for example. They also really like to feel like they've mastered something before they move on to the next thing. They are slower in their process, but they're really thorough. So for example, if a turtle was taking an online course, They would watch the whole lesson and they would watch the whole Q&A and they would take beautiful notes, like using different colored pens. And then they would make sure all of their questions were answered and they understood before they move on. When turtles come to my retreats, they want lots of advanced information so they can prepare. They want a detailed itinerary. They want an itemized packing list, and they want the license plate of the car that's picking them up from the airport. A turtle, you know what turtles do sometimes? They will watch my workout videos in advance of doing it the next day because they want to know what to expect. Turtles are awesome at keeping solid foundational habits because they really love predictable routine. And their downfall is that creating new habits, they sometimes get paralyzed because they feel totally overwhelmed with all this new information, or they feel really intimidated because people are going faster. And guess who's going faster? The frickin' tigers. So tigers just jump in without looking. Like a tiger would start making a recipe and then halfway through they'd realize, oh fuck, I don't even have most of these ingredients. Whatever, I'll substitute baking powder, baking soda, whatever, same thing. And they're fine. They will generally just want more. They want more variety. They want more intensity. They want more stimulation. When a tiger does an online course, they will do it at like 2x speed, but they're also doing something else at the same time. Maybe they're like driving, maybe they're cleaning the house. They'll absorb like kind of half of the information, but they'll be like, yeah. Okay. I got the gist. Moving on. Next lesson. Let's go. Rarely would a tiger do all the homework and like sit there and be like, that's really something to think about. Right. They don't often show up with questions either. Tigers are awesome because they have big energy, big dreams, and they get shit done. Their downfall is that they do not know when less is more and they burn out. And they get bored and they get the fuckets and they bounce when things aren't stimulating enough. So I noticed this tiger turtle patterns of a group like back in 2017. And by the way, dude, these are just archetypes. Like, astrology or the Enneagram, they're just archetypes. And sometimes we hear an archetype and it really resonates. We're like, oh shit, that is totally me. And this helps me understand myself. And now I can recognize some of my strengths and some of my weaknesses. And sometimes it falls totally flat. So again, follow the warmer, colder. If this tiger turtle shit feels warmer, then follow along. But if it doesn't spark anything in you, then just fucking leave it. There are so many other interesting paths to follow. And I'm like this with books, by the way. I finish about an average of a book a week. But if a book doesn't grab me like immediately, if it doesn't feel like warmer, I bail on it immediately. There are way too many awesome books to read to continue pursuing one just because I should, just because I started it. And by the way, this shoulding on yourself is one of the ways that tigers get stuck in overaction. So this term overaction is a term I got from Whitney Euland, who, by the way, teaches people how to get famous. And she was describing people who take tons and tons of action, but their results really don't reflect all of that activity and the pace at which they are pushing themselves. And as soon as she said it, I was like, oh shit, she's talking about the tigers. She mentions 3 things that prevent tigers from getting results from all of that overaction. And the first is that tigers are sometimes acting from a place of dysregulation. Like, have you ever been trying to pound through a project, like a piece of writing or whatever, but it's just like, it's not coming. It is a fucking slog. Every word is like being pried out of you with a crowbar, and then you write it down and you look at it and you're like, well, that fucking sucks. And then you delete the sentence and then you just get so frustrated. But you don't take a break because God damn it, this needs to get done. and you're not allowed to get up from my computer until I finish this thing. And then maybe you've had the experience where you do take a break, or you just go to bed. And then the next morning you sit down and you look at it and you're like, oh, this is no big deal. And you just dash it off. So when I'm in that dysregulated state of overaction, I have no fucking clue. I totally can't recognize it. I think, because by the way, I'm going to shock you. I'm a tiger type. And so I think that when I'm doing all that overaction, I think that I'm being disciplined and I'm pushing through. I think this is the good kind of grit, and I cannot recognize it at all, but I can recognize it in other people. Like when my son is stuck, for example, with his math homework, and literally all his energy is being spent like stomping his feet and talking about how math is stupid anyway, and his pencil's broken, and who took all the good pencils? And then he'll get in a big fight with his brother. I immediately recognize, I'm like, okay, this kid needs to take a break. He needs to take some deep breaths. This kid needs a snack. But there is no good math coming out of this guy right now. So let's just stop pushing it. Tigers, they don't know when to stop pushing it. They will exercise through injuries. They will work through weekends. They will skip meals to get it done. But in that state, getting it done takes twice as long, and the outcome is 3 times as shitty. Because the truth is that if you don't take care of your physical and emotional health first, if you're dysregulated because something triggered you, or because you're fucking exhausted, or because you're hungry, you can take all the action you want, but it will not move the needle in any way that's meaningful. So the second reason that tigers are not getting results with all of their activity is because they are constantly consuming so much that they don't give themselves enough time to create. So I'll give you an example. Many years ago in the 90s, I read this book called The Artist's Way. You might have heard of it. It was a huge book for unblocking your creativity. Me and every other actor was doing it. Every artist is doing this. But most people didn't get very far. I didn't. I don't know how far I got, but lesson number 3 was something like, it was no reading. Anything that wasn't directly related to your job or like, driving your car. You were allowed to read a stop sign or whatever. No reading for fun. No reading on the toilet. And so I was going on a road trip with my then boyfriend, and this is pre-phones, pre-internet. And we used to have this really lovely ritual for road trips because we had a lot. We drove back and forth to university and cottage and stuff like that and camping. We had this really mail newspaper, so like the big fat weekend edition. And I would read the articles to him while he drove, and we would discuss the article. So we get to the gas station, we fill up the tank, and I hop in the car with the Globe and Mail. And as I'm flipping it open, I mention, I'm doing this thing where I'm not supposed to read, but whatever. Okay. And he goes, well, let's not read then. Let's just talk. And he chucks the newspaper in the back seat. And to be honest, I felt a little like pissy or panicky maybe that I didn't get to indulge in this habit of consumption. But we ended up having this really awesome, beautiful, deep conversation on that trip. So much so that I can remember it 30 years later. That void allowed for something really beautiful to happen. And let me tell you something. Tigers fucking hate a void. Another example. I'm in this little self-created mastermind group with some of the women that I met at an entrepreneurs group years ago. And it's amazing. We're in totally different fields, and we've really watched each other's businesses grow, and we've really supported each other through hard times. And there's this one woman, I'll call her Jane. She's so helpful because she has a resource or a strategy for anything. If anyone says, oh gosh, I don't know how to grow my YouTube channel, or, my sales pages aren't converting, Jane will always be like, oh, have you tried the blah, blah, blah method? Or, oh, I read a book about that. Or, oh, this person has the webinar that you need to check out for this. And at our last meeting, Jane was saying that she feels so stuck in her business. Like it's just not going anywhere, even though she's working so hard. And she is working hard. Like she's got an amazing podcast. She just released her second book. She's just rebranded everything. She just developed some software to go with her method. Like so much activity. But Jane had just plateaued. And the rest of us gently said, Jane, when's the last time you took like a break, like a real break? And I'm going to pause here and I'm going to let you guess what Jane said, because I'm guessing you might know it, Jane. So what did Jane say? Jane said, oh, yeah. No, I'm going to take a break just as soon as I get ABC done. Sound familiar? And she also said, okay, dudes, I like taking business courses. That's fun for me. And it is, like reading the Globe and Mail was really fun for me in the 90s because it's so stimulating, and tigers love stimulation. which is why they consume so much and why they bounce from guru to diet without ever leaving some white space to actually get clear on the usually pretty fucking simple actions that are needed to push the needle forward. Hey, quick interruption. If you have health or fitness goals, I have a program that can help you smash it. But don't take it from me. Here is the real deal from one of my clients.
Before the MFA, I was a 40-year-old mom who could no longer get down on the ground to play with my son. I had no energy or time. I wanted a change and I found the MFA. After I joined the MFA, I became a person who exercises daily, even in the morning, getting my steps in, and can once again get down on the ground to play. If you are considering joining, I would say just do it. I thought about it for so long and kept making excuses not to join. When I finally broke up with my bullshit, it changed my life.
And the final thing that causes tigers to not get results from all that activity is that they are living and dying by the task list, the to-do list. So remember how Jane was like, oh yeah, no, I'll take a break after I do ABC. So what happens after Jane does ABC? Then DEF is going to appear on her task list. And because Jane is someone who thrives on being an achiever, she's going to keep ticking those boxes without ever looking up from the checklist to see if there's some actual fucking progress being made. Everyone loves feeling successful. And for tigers, checking the damn boxes can feel like achievement, when sometimes they really have to redefine what success is. Is it checking boxes or is it moving forward towards the goal? So for example, instead of being like, I am only successful with my fitness if I do this workout and if I eat 100 grams of protein a day, maybe it's like, I'm successful with my fitness when I eat and move in a way that makes me feel good every day. Right? Like that's the fucking point. Okay, so let's talk about turtles for a second, or as Whitney Euland calls them, people who get stuck in inaction. But I actually disagree with her on this a little bit. I think it's underaction, because it's usually not that turtles are doing nothing. It's just they're just not doing enough to get the results that they want. And that is almost always because they're scared. And don't get me wrong, the tigers, they're fucking scared too. The tigers are afraid of not projecting as an achiever. They are afraid of the void. They're afraid of not living up to their definition of success. Turtles have different fears. Turtles are afraid that they're going to do all this effort and it's not going to work. Like, why try when nothing I've ever done to lose weight has ever worked before? This effort's going to just drain all my energy and I'm going to have nothing to show for it and I'm going to feel like a fucking idiot. Or maybe they're afraid that it will work and that's going to be even more scary. Like they might think, oh my God, well, what if I do get a book deal? And what if it gets published and then no one likes my book? Or what if they all laugh at me? You know, that thought is certainly going to prevent you from writing, from sending pitches to editors, even if it's like a really subconscious kind of thought. Or they might think, what if I do get in front of a big audience and I get to give a TED talk, but that is so much work to prepare and my family life is going to suffer. And also, what if it gets a whole bunch of negative comments online? Now, can you see how this energy would just keep you so stuck? Or, what if I succeed as a real estate agent and I'm in the top 1% and I'm super wealthy and I get to hire a housekeeper and an assistant, but then everyone thinks I'm like a rich bitch? Now listen, I know that all those examples sounded like I was accusing turtles of being obsessed with some adolescent, oh, what if they laugh at me fear? But dude, we all have that fear. We all have that fear. We have evolved to have a mortal fear of social rejection, because in times past, being evicted from the herd actually meant like starvation and death. And although our rational minds might realize that like, okay, a couple of people sniggering about my new Etsy store business is not a big deal. I will survive. But there might be a part of you that sees that as truly fucking terrifying. Which is why, hold on, side note. If that's you, the best thing you could do is join a course that has a group of Etsy entrepreneurs. Listen, if we automatically regulate to the herd, which we do, why not consciously choose the herd that's heading in the direction that you want to go. This is why it fucking astounds me. Like, it sounds like I'm pissed, but I'm honestly just astonished that people will join my 28-day transformation program and they don't join the Facebook group. Like, I know everyone hates Facebook, but the reason that Facebook can be so horrible is because you regulate to your feed. And because the algorithm gives us more of what gets a reaction out of us, our feeds are often by design really triggering. So of course we get all dysregulated after consuming that. It's so fucking powerful. But we can use that power for good when we take the time to consciously create and curate our online communities to be the things that make us laugh and feel inspired and that push us towards our goals. And then we regulate to that. And that is a very good thing. Okay, let's get back to turtles. The only thing more fucking terrifying than being estranged from the herd is being estranged from yourself and who you think you are, which is another reason why turtles might get so paralyzed because they have a conflicting identity. I can't make more money because I pride myself on being middle class and rich people are assholes. I can't join a Facebook group or build a following on Instagram because I'm not a social media person. Social media people are stupid. I can't lose weight. It's just genetic. No one in my family has ever been able to lose weight. That's just part of being a Fitzsimmons. I just made that up. If your name is Fitzsimmons, I am not talking about you. Okay. Oh, listen to this interesting story about identity. So they did a study where they asked participants, do you feel like a lucky person? You know, some people are like, oh yeah, I'm always lucky. I always win things. And some people are like, oh no, I'm so unlucky, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, they distracted them, getting them doing something else. But what they did was they planted a $20 bill on the ground. And the people who identified as I'm not a lucky person, they didn't even fucking see the $20. Whereas the people who identified as lucky were much more likely to be like, hey, $20. Oh, look what I found. Your identity will literally shape your reality. And if your identity doesn't allow you to be successful in this area, it's not going to happen until you update that identity. And here's the biggest thing that gets in the way for turtles. It's a shame spiral. Tigers tend to get pissed and frustrated. I am freaking taking all this action. Where are my freaking results? Fine. I'll work harder. That's tigers. But turtles feel shame. They know they're not taking action. They're embarrassed. They start beating themselves up for not doing the things that they know they should do. They start getting embarrassed. They're not further ahead. And when you're in shame, when you're beating yourself up, do you tend to take inspired action? No, you get despondent. You hide. You don't ask for help and support because you're embarrassed. It's a shame spiral. You know, the other day I was doing some laser coaching with some of my MFers. And one woman, she said that she's so embarrassed. And you know what's so interesting? I had to specifically ask her because she didn't reach out for help on this. You know, I'm always like, hey guys, how's everyone going? Everyone's like, oh, good. Yeah, no, good. I'm killing it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, great. Melanie, how are you doing? And she's like, actually, I'm not doing so great. Her name wasn't Melanie. I just made that up. But what this woman said was that she's really embarrassed because she says, you know, I get a big push to do stuff and then I don't do anything. And I can't seem to get momentum going. And I told her what I'll tell you if that is something you can identify with. Your job is not to beat yourself into doing all the things and checking all the boxes. Your job is to love yourself equally, whether you check the boxes or not. You need to love yourself equally if you are having a 100% day or a 10% day. If you beat yourself up every time it's not a 100% day, you're going to make the process feel so fucking painful, so unachievable, so hard. You're never going to get momentum. We all have ebbs and flows of energy and inspiration. And a low energy day, a low productivity day should not detract from your self-respect and your self-love. No one has ever hated themselves into a body that they love. You've heard me say that before. But no one has ever hated themselves into a career that they love. No one has ever hated themselves into a relationship that they love. Self-love and self-acceptance is the key to progress in any goal. And I want to share that because every time I go deep into a new area of learning that sparks my curiosity, well, fuck, there it is again. Self-compassion, self-love, self-awareness. And every time I learn the lesson, it seems like there's another layer of that onion to unpeel. Recently, I did an interview for the podcast with a stylist named Janine Jacob. And it's coming out next week, actually, episode 58. So I'm going to give you a spoiler. I was asking Janine about the secret to her considerable success. And she mentioned that she started asking herself, how can I love myself more? And when she did that, her whole world changed. She lost 40 pounds. She exploded her career. She started creating. And I will suggest that whether you identify as a tiger or a turtle, or whether you think archetypes are fucking bollocks, in any case, no matter what goal you are currently working on, if you are stuck, you might want to ask yourself, how can I love myself more? And listen, if you do identify as a tiger, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of that archetype, you could refine that question. And you might say something like, how can I better take care of myself, both my body and my emotions, so I'm not taking frenetic, dysregulated, scattered action? Or what content am I consuming that isn't really helpful? And how can I give myself more white space to allow my brilliance to shine through? How can I love myself enough to realize that I am my own guru and I don't need to consume any more to know exactly what to do next? A tiger who's so busy checking boxes might want to ask, is checking these boxes actually moving me forward? If I loved myself even more, what would I be doing instead of this? If you identify as a turtle, maybe your self-love questions would be, do I believe that I have the power to achieve my goal? And if not, why not? Why not me? They might want to ask, what is the scariest thing that could happen if I achieve my goal? And how can I make myself feel safe no matter what the outcome of my effort? They might say, am I attached to an identity that isn't serving me right now? And what is a new identity that makes me feel so good? And most of all, how can I love myself even if I'm having a 10% day? So there you go, lovely listener, the distillation of $1 million of continuing education. To get to the next level, you might want to love yourself more. And not as some sort of fucking kumbaya platitude, but because on the other side of that self-love is confidence, is creativity, is energy, is inspired action, instead of fear paralysis or frenetic action that's getting you fucking nowhere. This week, I am sending you so much love, and even more, I hope you are loving yourself, and I will see you next week.
Hey dude, thanks for listening. If you like this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you can get the next one. And by the way, if you rate and review this podcast, it really helps me get found by other people who need some goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. And be sure to connect and DM me at Una Duncan on Instagram and let me know what you thought of the episode. Chat soon.